preach was given to me by the school that I'm at, School of Ministry, and what I'm preach, where it's coming from, the passage, it is Luke 8, verse 40 through 48, and this is the woman who has a flow of blood for 12 years. She has an issue of blood, and I'm just going to go over it quickly. So Jesus is coming, right? He's coming. He's in this. It's the land of Gerasene, and as he comes, this crowd is welcoming him, and as this crowd is welcoming Jesus coming here, there's this man by the name of Jairus who comes to Jesus and falls at his feet. And Jairus is begging Jesus to come to his house because his daughter is sick and is about to die. And so Jesus agrees and comes and walks that way. So him and his disciples are walking through this crowd. And I'm just going to pick up on verse 42, halfway through verse 42. And he goes, "As he went, the people pressed around him, and a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years had spent all her living upon physicians and could not be healed by anyone, came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her flow of blood ceased. And Jesus said, 'Who was it that touched me?' When all denied it, Peter said, 'Master, the multitudes surround you and press upon you.' But Jesus said, 'Someone touched me, for I perceive that power has gone forth from me.' And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in his presence of all people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, 'Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace.'" Something about the Hebrew tradition in this area is that back then, when women had their period or had issues with blood, and even men in this case where the blood is flowing, that they were actually considered unclean, and so they weren't able to become part of society, and they weren't able to be with one another. So that means they weren't able to go to family gatherings. That means they weren't able to go to synagogue. That means that they weren't able to do the normal things as people do. It sounds really familiar to this day, that we're able to gather together as a bunch because of something that's unclean that's happening. And this woman who she was trying to get back to everybody. So she was desperate to come back, to be able to go to God and go to these people. And there's also a point of, like, in that culture, that when people have serious illnesses that take them away and make them impure for very long periods of time, is that a lot of times they'll be like, "What did I do? What sin did I cause?" Or people will be like, "You sinned and therefore God is mad at you," or whatever, insert something, that you're actually set apart because you're a sinful person and God is mad at you. And so she is super desperate, 12 years of being away from everybody. And the verse goes, she had spent all of her living upon physicians, all of her living. Some translations say all of her money. Some when I looked it up in the Greek, it's actually the word bios, which is where we get life. So that's why biology is a study of life. And so she literally spent her whole life upon physicians so that she can be restored back to culture, back to what she wants to do. And she was unable to. Nothing could cure her. So she was spending all of her life on these earthly physicians, or these things that weren't necessarily going to bring full restoration, because they didn't know what was wrong with her. But the thing is that she had found out about this man Jesus, because earlier in the story, is that there was a man there's a man who was also in Gerasene, which is the place that he's the man he was the demoniac. Jesus came to Gerasene. There was the Gerasene demoniac. He had legion within him, and when Jesus saw him, legion was afraid and was like, "Hey, what are you doing? What do you have to do with us?" And Jesus was like, "Hey, I'm casting you out." And they're like, "Don't throw us anywhere but the pigs." So they throw in the pigs. Pigs jump off the cliff. They die. People get scared, and this angry mob forms and casts Jesus out. But the thing is that when Jesus left, the man who was demonized, he actually begged to be with Jesus, and Jesus said, "No, I want you to return to your people, and I want you to declare what God has done for you." And so this woman with the blood flow, she knew of one person who had been cast out from society and then restored. And so she knew that Jesus Christ was it. She knew that Jesus was the Christ. She knew that there's something on him that it could get her to be restored. And so with that, she knowing that she's unclean, she had to push through this crowd. And now this crowd, when it says the word that as Jesus was walking, it says people were pressed around him. Some places say was crushing him, but the word in the Greek there is actually meaning to choke out. So like weeds choking out a plant. And so she had to push past these people that were choking, that were like so squished together that she had just all she wanted to do was touch this tassel of the Lord. And so she knew that there was breakthrough if she pushed through these weeds. And then so you ask that question of what does that mean for us? Because as soon as she touched him, she was immediately restored. Jesus saw her and was like, "Daughter, your faith has saved you. Go in peace." So she's restored back to society. So how do we take this passage and bring it to now? Something that the Lord has given me is this idea of these weeds crushing around the plant. What is the plant in this case? Jesus Christ, right? Jesus Christ is this life, this full life, right? Which also goes to she gave up her whole life to be restored. And Jesus Christ is this life, and these weeds are crushing around him. So you ask this question, what are the weeds in your life that are keeping you from your breakthrough? Because there's sometimes the Lord asks us to push through and push through these things, in which are fears, which are lies, which are anxieties, which are you name it, things that make you want to run away, or things that you think are actually keeping you from your breakthrough, but actually they're just kind of covering it up and making it harder for your breakthrough. But what is it that the Lord is asking you to push through just to touch him? This isn't a part of striving, but there is a part of actually pushing through something and doing and jumping off this cliff. To use another analogy, is that this reminds me of this story that happened this summer. Is that I had gone cliff jumping, and my friends went off cliff jumping, and they're like, "Corey, you gotta do it. I knew that I was gonna freeze. I'm afraid of heights, and I'm not the best swimmer, so I was too afraid to jump. But I went up on top. I went up anyway because I was like, okay, I might as well break off this fear, or break whatever it is. And as I was up top, I realized that I was afraid, and I froze. I froze for 15 minutes. I sat there, or I stood there, and nobody else was jumping. They were all waiting for me to jump, and everyone was cheering me on. They're like, "Corey, you got this!" And they were shouting, they were chanting my name. They literally were counting down for me. They counted down at least 3-4 times, and I was standing at the edge, looking down over and over and over again. And I was like, "No, I'm done. I can't do this." And I was like, "No, but I can't." And they're like, "You can't actually go down," because actually it was a lot more dangerous to go down and not jump than actually to jump at the time. That's a whole thing too, is that like sometimes it's actually dangerous to go away from this fear that you need to jump into, and it is actually to jump in the fear. And something that I realized too is that no matter how many times they cheered me on, they encouraged me, they gave me words of gratitude, words of wisdom, or words of prophecy, or whatever, add whatever you want to put there. No matter how many times somebody outside of me did it, it was only me who had to jump. It's only me that could jump. It's only me who actually could get my breakthrough, because it didn't make it any less scary, right? But I had to attach and be like, no, I'll be okay, because there were people down there that knew how to swim, that I trusted, but I was still afraid to make that leap. And so the same thing with this woman is that she knew she was going to push through these people. She had to push through a crowd that was choking out Jesus or crushing Jesus. So it's like rubbing shoulders, and she had to push through knowing that she is making everybody she's touching unclean. But she faced her fear because she desired that breakthrough. She desired restoration. She desired wholeness, and that's what the Lord is asking us to do in this life. Is that it's to bring restoration, to bring us back to Him, to bring us back to wholeness. And remember that Jesus knows everything about you. He knows like all the things that you've done that's wrong and all the things you've done that's amazing. And the thing is that He desires wholeness for you. He desires that far more than you do. And He is a great strategist. He knows exactly how to do it. And so it's learning what it means to push through your anxieties or your fear. And just fear is just a loud voice. You have to remember that. Fear is just this barking, annoying dog at times. And I understand there's a point of where like you can become overwhelmed and panicky and that stuff too. But it's Jesus. Remember that Jesus is always the prize. And Jesus is wholeness. Jesus is love. Jesus is joy, is peace, is righteousness, is self-control. It's all within Him. So what is the Lord asking you to do? I just want you to take time after this video to think about what are my anxieties or fears that I have to push through. What is it that I am holding on to? And then ask the Lord, what is one thing that I can do today that will achieve more breakthrough in these areas? I was going to pray. So Father, I thank you. I thank you that you love us and you know exactly what you're doing. I thank you that you desire us to be whole. So Father, I ask you give them courage to push through these breakthroughs. I ask you give them peace and comfort as they do this. And Lord, I thank you that you're going to catch them on the other side. God bless you. Thanks for watching my video. Like I said, I want to try to do this weekly. If you liked it, please hop on, share this with somebody that you think is going to be impacted by it. Hop on to YouTube, hit subscribe, and you can hit the bell because the bell will notify you when I post another video. I'm also on Instagram. There's a link in the description that's going to give you a link to a bunch of other things. And honestly, right now I want to do this. I would love to do this for full time because I know that this is something the Lord has given me to be able to teach Scripture and revelation and bring people into greater encounters with the Lord. And if you want to please help me out with that, you can go to the link that's in the description. There's a site called Patreon, and that is a monthly giving. And I would love for you to sign up. I'm going to be once I start getting more and more people on there, I'm going to start posting content that's just going to be for those that are on Patreon. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed this, and you guys have a really wonderful week. God bless you.